Let us continue the discussion on remaining concepts of salary. Almost salary is over. In the last lecture, we were discussing the concept of tax on employment. That means professional tax. I showed you in the last lecture that state government has been given the power under Indian Constitution to collect tax on profession in their own state. But now that is practically not our purpose of discussion. As far as tax is concerned, I will now discuss with you tax implication of this professional tax. Yesterday I simply showed you that the procedure to collect tax, or who should collect, if or who can collect tax, not should, who can collect professional tax. State, not center. This is what I showed you in the last lecture. Now let me discuss with you tax implication of professional tax. So I'm discussing the treatment of tax on employment for the purpose of tax, income tax. Normally call it as professional tax also. Whatever is collected, that is none of my business now. I am concerned with how much is deduction. So whatever professional tax is paid, actually paid, not payable, paid, professional tax paid by an assessee during the previous year, which is your previous year 2021, is allowed as deduction under section 16. That's it. So let us discuss a small numerical from my book. In fact, you should attempt it. Concept building approach. Page 4.55. You should attempt it. It's very simple. Whatever professional tax is paid during the previous year 2021 is allowed as deduction under section 16. In section 16, there are three deductions, if you remember: standard deduction, entertainment allowance, and professional tax. So it is allowed as deduction. So now you tell me the answer yourself. Let me discuss one numerical. H, a non-government employee, he earns basic salary of 8 lakh, entertainment allowance 6,000, professional tax he paid 2,000. Now you simply tell me taxable salary. This is the information available. A non-government employee is earning basic salary 8 lakh, entertainment allowance 36,000, and he has paid professional tax of 2,000. You tell me the answer of taxable salary.
So 7,84,000.
Let everyone compute. Any other answer? Try to tell the answer. Only these things: basic salary, entertainment allowance received, non-government employee. He has actually paid 2,000 as tax on employment. Then how much is his taxable salary? What answer you told me?
7,84,000.
Okay. So 7,84,000 is one answer. Any other answer other than 784 if someone is getting a different answer? Okay, how many of you are getting 784? Please raise your hands. How many of you are getting 7,84,000? Please raise your hands. Not only getting the answer, in fact, understanding the answer also. Just because you are getting the answer coincidentally is not a good thing. You must know the reason also. If you are confident in explaining the reasons also for 7,84,000, then that is correct. So 7,84,000 is the correct answer. Those who got it and understood it, please raise the hands. 784. Those who understood, and if they know the reason also that, yeah, this is how they got 7,84,000, please raise the hands. Avdeep, you have understood 784 or not?
No, sir.
No. Can anyone explain how they have got 784? Komal, can you explain 784 how you got 784?
Yes, sir. First, we'll add basic salary, which is 8 lakh. Then we'll add entertainment allowance, which is 36,000. Since there's nothing else, we'll come to deductions under section 16.
No,
First
total of these two will give me gross salary.
Yes, sir. After gross salary, we'll come to deductions under section 16. We'll see a deduction, standard deduction of rupees 50,000. Then, since this person is a non-government employee, no deduction is allowed for entertainment allowance. Coming after that, there's a deduction for professional tax that's been paid. So totally, he can deduct 52,000 from his gross salary, and then we get 784,000.
Is 7,84,000 clear now? This is how we get 784. 8 lakh plus 36,000 gross salary minus 50,000 standard deduction minus deduction of 2,000 as on account of professional tax. That's all. So in case you want to ask anything, you can ask. Otherwise, I am moving within 30 seconds to the next concept. So I think I should move to new concept. In case you have any query, you can ask. Otherwise, I'm moving to the new concept. Almost salary is over, or not almost, in fact, salary is over. Just one point I want to discuss. So answer was 7,84,000. Last point is relief under section 89. That's it. This is what I wanted to discuss. Do you remember where I was computing or I was deducting this relief? Do you remember in which format and where I was deducting this relief? When we compute tax, how do we compute tax? Tax on total income. From this we get rebate under section. Which section? Which section?
So 87A.
ETC.
87A. In this we add surcharge. We add health and education cess. And from this relief under section 89. Now I am not telling you the calculation of relief, that is not in our course. Calculation of relief is not in our course, but I will tell you logically that why relief under 89 is given. You imagine a situation, I am Mr. X. You imagine a situation, I am Mr. X. Previous year in 18-19, for example, my income was 1 lakh. In previous year 19-20, my income was 2 lakh. In previous year 2021, which is my year, my income was 8 lakh. In this year, I was paying nil tax because till 2 lakh 50 there is no tax. In this year, I was paying nil tax because till 2 lakh 50 there is no tax. In this year, I am paying tax at what rate? Up to 2 lakh 50 nil, 2 lakh to 50,000 to 5 lakh 5%, and 5 lakh to 8 lakh 20%. Is this clear? If yes, please raise your hand. Till this point, if you have understood, please raise your hand. What I have told you, if you have understood, please raise your hand. Okay, now see what can happen. What can happen? You tell me something. If I receive arrear of salary, for example, arrear of 2018-19. In previous year 18-19, at that time there was no arrear, but after 2 years something happened. My employer wanted to give me some extra income. So that is known as arrear. Suppose he is willing to give me around 4 lakh rupees as arrear of 18-19. In which year he will give me? Of course, he is thinking of giving me in this year. Similarly, he wants to give me an arrear of rupees 6 lakh of previous year 19-20. In which year? Of course, in my year. And these two arrears were not taxed earlier. These have not been taxed earlier. These have not been taxed earlier. These have not been taxed earlier. Though in salary, I apply the concept. Which concept? Salary is taxable on due basis or receipt basis, whichever is earlier. If you go by this concept, some of you might think that this arrear must have been taxed on due basis in the previous year 18-19 and 19-20 itself. Some of you might think this, but that is a wrong concept because it was not due. It was not due. I didn't know at that time in 18-19 and 19-20 that I will get some arrear. That was not due. In 2021 itself, I got to know that I will get some arrear. Further, so on this basis, if these were not due earlier, I will tax it now on receipt basis. That I will tax it in the previous year 2021. Though these are not related to 2021, but I will tax it in the previous year 2021. Also, we have another point. If you remember my section 15, which was basis of charge, that any arrear of salary will be taxable if it has not been taxed earlier. Any arrear is taxable on receipt basis. Any arrear of salary is taxable on receipt basis if it has not been subject to tax earlier. Any arrear is taxable on receipt basis if it has not been subject to tax earlier. So by this logic also, since these were not taxed earlier, I will tax it now. Have you understood these points? If yes, I want to see your hands, virtual hands. Okay. Now, can you think or imagine what is happening here? Assessee is in a loss. Do you know why assessee is in a loss here? It is problematic. Because of no reason, assessee is in pain here. What pain is this? What problem?
Sir, in the previous year, he was he was in nil category, but now he has to pay tax on 20%, like on the incremental income.
So if
Yeah.
he got 4 lakh in 18-19, then he would only have to pay 5% tax, and even that would come under rebate. But now he has to pay around 30% since his income would go above 10.
Or 5% maximum. Had you included 6 lakh in the year to which it belongs, it would have been 8 lakh. I would have paid nil or 5% or maximum 20%. But now you are including this arrear in this year, where my total income will go to 18 lakh, and I will unnecessarily pay on some income nil, on some income 5%, on some income 20%, and on this additional income which does not relate to my year, in fact at 30%, which is not logically correct. He will argue that income tax is taxable on yearly basis. Logically, I should be allowed to tax, or not allowed to tax. I should have paid the tax logically from April to March only. I should have paid logically from April to March of my year. That means April 20 till March 21. But now I am paying the tax on that year also, income of that year also, which does not relate to my year. So it is wrong. Is his logic justified? Yes or no? If yes, raise your hands. Is he logical in arguing that I should have been paid the tax, or I should have been forced to pay the tax only on 1 year's income? The income which does not relate to my year, why it should have been taxed in my year? It should have been, why it is taxed in my year? It should have been taxed in the same year. His logic is 100% correct, and that is why Act gives some relief, and that is why it is known as relief. And why I am giving this relief from tax? Because such situations will increase my tax liability. So relief 89 will reduce my tax liability. That's it. I'm not giving this relief from total income. I'm giving it from tax, because this or such situation where assessee will be paying the tax on income of a period which is more than 12 months, his tax liability becomes high. So he should be given some relief under section 89. So I hope logically section 89 is clear. How to compute it, that is another case that I'm not going to discuss now. How to compute it, that is another case. Computation of relief is not in our course of semester 3. So I'm not discussing that. But can you think logically how I should compute the relief logically? Exact concept I'm not asking. But logically, how do you think that relief should be computed? In this case, what should, or as if suppose we have to take a decision, how we would have proceeded in telling this person that this is how your relief will be calculated? Any answer? Logically, what we would have said to him?
So relief should be the excess of tax that he now has to pay. So like for 4 lakh, I would take 5% of that and then see how much 4 lakh would contribute here. 2 lakh would be under 20% bracket, 2 lakh would be under 30% bracket. So the difference between that I would provide under relief.
Calculation is not correct yours, and of course it would not have been correct because I have not told you the exact way, but your point is correct that whatever excess he is paying now will not be collected from him. So excess will be given to him as relief. Excess will be whatever excess tax he is paying, government will say that this excess you are not supposed to pay, and we call it as this is your relief under 99. And how do we compute excess? That is the technical point. In simple terms, I can say that whatever tax he is paying now, from this, whatever tax he would have paid, had you included this income in those years to which it belonged, because that tax he had to pay. This much tax he is extra paying. So this difference is wrong. And this is the relief under 89. You cannot say that it is totally tax free. This much tax he had to pay. Even if this income would have been included in the same year, he would have paid this much tax. Now he is paying this much. So this excess, government say, okay, don't give. So call it as relief under 89. How to compute it? You ignore it. Please raise your hand if you have understood the concept of relief. With this, now chapter salary is over. Let me discuss with you the last topic. So salary is over. Now the last topic is what? If you remember, I have discussed with you optional taxation scheme under section 115 BAC. From the assessment year 21-22, first time this scheme is made applicable to individuals and HUF. Under this scheme, under section 115 BAC, we have less tax rates, 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%, 25% also. But if you go for optional taxation scheme, you have to forego so many benefits. While computing income under the head salary, I have told you so many exemptions or deductions which will not be allowed to him in case an individual opts for optional taxation scheme. Let me all merge it now in this single sheet. दिल्ली में तो बारिश हो गई भाई, आपके यहाँ तो पता नहीं. So it's raining now in college. Heavy rain. So let us now in one sheet discuss which exemptions or benefits will not be allowed in case this individual opts for optional taxation scheme. So you note down this point. After this, the chapter is completely over and we will discuss some numericals. So last heading, benefits which are not allowed to an individual. I hope you can see the screen. While computing income under the head salaries. Who has opted for optional taxation scheme under section 115 BAC. Now, can you tell me, do you remember any of those exemptions benefits, if you remember, which will not be allowed if you opt for optional taxation scheme while computing salary income? Do you remember any 1-2 benefits? Remaining I will tell you. Can you tell me any benefit which is not allowed, if you remember?
Deduction under section 16.
What?
Standard deduction under section 16.
Yeah, it is not allowed. Any other benefit which you remember?
Sir, house rent allowance exemption.
Yeah, that is not allowed. Any other benefit which you remember? Okay, let us start.
Allowances such
Yes,
as professional tax or even leave travel allowance.
No, leave travel allowance में तो कोई exemption होती ही नहीं है. Leave travel allowance is fully taxable. There is no exemption in leave travel allowance. Let me start writing and then you remember it. This will be helpful in your personal tax planning also. Personal tax planning is not altogether a separate topic, in fact. If you remember income tax provision, easily you can plan the questions. In my book, in the back side as appendix, I have given some numericals on personal tax planning also. In case you have that book, my book, you can take the help. Otherwise, you can take the help from other books also if you want. Now, exemption in respect of leave travel concession, not allowance. LTC is a perquisite. Leave travel allowance becomes an allowance, then it's not a perquisite. So don't get confused with the word only leave travel. Last word is allowance or not. Exemption in respect of leave travel concession, not allowed. Exemption in respect of LTC. As per section 10 clause 5, whatever exemption is allowed from LTC, if you opt for optional taxation scheme, you will not get any exemption of LTC. Do you remember how much is the exemption in LTC? Can you tell me how much is the exemption under LTC? कुछ याद है how much is the exemption of LTC? I discussed it in the perquisite. How much is the exemption of LTC? Amount actually spent or amount of airfare, etc. by shortest route, whichever is less is the exemption. I hope you remember now. That was the exemption of LTC. No exemption will be allowed. Your LTC received, that amount is fully taxable in case you opt for optional taxation scheme under section 115 BAC. If you opt for optional taxation scheme under section 115 BAC, you will not get any exemption of LTC. Entire LTC amount received will be fully taxable. Next point. So don't get it confused with leave travel allowance. Leave travel allowance is fully taxable and that is not a perquisite, that's an allowance. But LTC is not an allowance, it is a perquisite. Then exemption in respect of house rent allowance. No exemption. HRA becomes fully taxable the moment you opt for optional taxation scheme. 10 clause 13A. Okay. Do you remember how many category of allowances I have discussed? I'm moving to the new slide for the time being. Do you remember how many allowances I have discussed with you? 5. Category 1 allowance where exemption depends upon actual expenditure. Category 2 allowance where exemption depends upon provisions. Category 3 allowance where exemption depends upon
Both of them.
Actual expenditure as well as provision. Category 4 allowance where exemption depends upon what? Nothing. Exemption is what?
Fully exempt.
Fully exempt. And category 5 allowance?
Fully taxable.
Fully taxable. So when you opt for optional taxation scheme, category 5 is of no use because I'm discussing with you the exemptions which you will forego. So if any allowance is fully taxable already, whether you opt for optional taxation or do not opt for optional taxation, category 5 allowances have no effect on that, because it was fully taxable earlier, it is fully taxable now. As far as category 3 allowance is concerned, you will not get the exemption of category 3 allowance, and in this only one allowance is there, HRA. As far as category 1 and 2 allowances are concerned, do you remember the sections? This is with section 10, clause 14, subclause 1. This is with section 10, clause 14, subclause 2. In this allowance, do you remember the 6 names? Transfer allowance, daily allowance, conveyance allowance, helper allowance, research allowance, research or public academic, whatever you say, and uniform allowance. Do you remember these names? Transfer or traveling was one and the same thing. If you remember category 2 allowances, most common are transport allowance, children education allowance, hostel expenditure allowance. I hope you remember these also. In fully exempt, there were so many things: daily allowance and constituency allowance to MP or MLA. That is fully exempt. Then allowances to United Nations organization and its officers are fully exempt. Sumptuary allowances to High Court and Supreme Court judges exempt. Okay, etc. I hope you remember this. If you remember this, or if you don't remember it, but now if you have understood, please raise your hand. As far as allowance is concerned, please raise your hand if this structure you have understood, that yes, it was there. Okay, now let us discuss, if you opt for optional taxation scheme, what you will forego. What you will forego if you opt for optional taxation scheme. First thing, I have discussed with you that you will forego HRA exemption, it is fully taxable. Now within category 1 and 2, what you will forego? What you will forego? No exemption. No exemption of category 1 and 2. No exemption in category 1 and 2. Exemption in respect of allowances which are covered under section 10 clause 14. So in 10 clause 14, 2 category of allowances are covered as per my teaching method. 10 clause 14 subclause 1, actual expenditure based exemption. 10 clause 14 subclause 2, provisions based exemption. No exemption. However, but on some allowances you will still continue getting exemption. The exemption in respect of following allowances will still be allowed. Exemption in respect of following allowances is allowed. Even though you are opting for optional taxation scheme, from section 10 clause 14, there are 4 allowances where exemption will continue to be allowed to you. First is transport allowance exemption. In transport allowance exemption, the exemption is allowed to differently abled people, and that exemption will continue to be allowed to them in case they have opted for optional taxation scheme. Traveling allowance exemption or transfer allowance exemption will continue to be allowed under section 10 clause 14 subclause 1. daily allowance exemption will continue to be allowed even if you opt for optional taxation scheme, and conveyance allowance exemption continue to be allowed. These three are covered under which section? If you remember, section 10, clause 14 with subclause.
First.
1. And this is covered under section 10, clause 14 with subclause 2. That's it. If it is clear, please raise your hand. So before you go for deciding that I will opt for optional taxation scheme, you must not forget that you will forego these benefits. First, second, and third point. In third point, there are 4 benefits which you can still claim even if you opt for optional taxation scheme. Okay. Now, so now I am covered with what? That now in category 1 also you get to know which exemptions will be denied. In category 2 also you get to know which exemptions are denied. Category 3 you also get to know which exemptions are denied. In fully exempt, only this exemption is denied. Rest exemptions will continue to be allowed. So I can say that exemption in respect of daily allowance, and constituency allowance available to MP or MLA. This exemption, whenever I use the word exemption, you must not forget that it will be section 10, because all exemptions are given in section 10, except some which are given in respective sections. There may be some sections which specifically say that this income is not taxable, but broadly you have to remember section 10. Section 10 clause 17, no exemption. So with this I have covered all the allowances, that which benefits in which allowances you will forego if you go for 115 BSc. In perquisite, if you remember that food perquisite exempt, in food 50 per meal is exempt. That exemption is denied. Exemption in respect of rupees 50 per meal in case of perquisite of food is not allowed. That you cannot claim. Other perquisites will remain as usual. All exemptions, all calculations will remain as usual. All retirement benefits, exemptions, deductions as usual, no problem. Only these points will be having different way for treatment in case you opt for optional taxation scheme. Then deductions under section 16 not allowed. And those are 3. You will not get any benefit of standard deduction, you will not get any benefit of entertainment allowance, and you will not get any benefit of professional tax. No deduction. That's it. These 6 points you should learn, which are changed while computing income under the head salary in case you have opted for optional taxation scheme, remaining in same. All other exemptions, all other deductions, exemptions, valuations, etc. will remain same. If an individual opts for optional taxation scheme. While computing income under the head salary, but this is only for salary. For every chapter we have different provisions for optional taxation scheme. While computing income under the head salary, all calculations, valuations, everything remains same. That's it. You must note it down. And in case you have noted down and if you have understood, please raise your hands. Now with this, salary is over. And in the next lecture now, we will start full-fledged questions. We will be having 2-hour lecture on Monday and we will start full-fledged questions where we will combine all the provisions of an individual while computing his income under the head salary. So let us end this session today. And now you revise it, entire salary which you have noted in your copies. And on Monday we will discuss full-fledged questions where all the points will be mixed. We will be having a single question where we have different perquisites, different allowances, different retirement benefits, and then the question will say that you compute the income. That's it. So gradually now we will move to full-fledged question. That's all from my side. So now you revise the topic of salary from whatever concepts we have discussed so far. That's all. Goodbye.